This video will teach you the 5 ranges of boxing and precisely how much practice you need to do in each range on different equipment in order to get your range
There's quite a bit of
perfect.
detail with these practices and a lot to remember, so what I've done is in the description below I have summarized these with the exact amount of practices that you need to do in the correct order at the correct range, so you can just cut it, paste it and print it out and use that straight away. So check out the links in the description below. Everything is in there for your practice so that you can do this. Make sure that when you do your practices that you tick off what you've done, because if we're not assessing, we're only guessing. Any boxing coach will tell you that power is nothing without range. If I'm out of range, doesn't matter how good a puncher I am, it won't cause damage to my opponent. For this example, I'm going to use the punch bag as my opponent. The first range in boxing is out of range. I can't reach them. The second range in boxing is edge of range. With one step, with 1 foot length, I could reach my target just at long range. The third range, on the range that you should always begin with in boxing if you're a beginner, is long range. Long range is when I can just reach my target here with my shoulder forward, not flat like this. I'm too close then. Shoulder should be forward. The arm is at full extension here. How do you know against an opponent if you are at long range? Generally, you'd be 1 foot length away from the toe of their front foot and you'd be able to land both punches. That's how you can tell. So 1 foot length apart, you are at long range. The fourth range in boxing, medium range here. This is when my elbow will touch the opponent there. This is a perfect range for me to throw hooks and uppercuts. The fifth and final range is close range. This is when we're leaning against each other and we're touching like this. I mentioned before, long range is the range that we should learn first as a beginner. It's the first range that you should master. Here's a fantastic drill to find long range. Finding long range is really difficult for a lot of people. They don't know how far back they should stand. So here we're going to use a wall to find our range. Here is the wall. I want you to try and do this if you're a beginner. I want you to stand where you think you'd need to stand in order to throw your punch for it to land at full extension with your shoulder forward in this position like that. So just move forwards and backwards and see if you can think, yeah, this is about right. If you're too close, your shoulder will be too far back and your arm will be bent. If you're too far away, you'll have to lean forward. This is the first method of practice that we must do. Now, to begin with this, I suggest that what you do is just stand there like this and then go to this position, to your guard position, and just learn how far that is. Move forwards and backwards and just see if you can get yourself into the correct position. When you do this, this is a block of practice. You're practicing one skill several times over. My suggestion to you is do blocks of 10 practices. So moving in, checking range, that's one practice. Do that 10 times and then you have a little break. Here's the thing, in this little break, which needs to be 20 to 30 seconds, you must do nothing. If you do nothing at all during this 20 to 30 seconds, this is when neuroplasticity is at its highest and this is when the learning is done. Now what will happen is that this move is actually replayed backwards in your mind, not forwards, and then later on tonight when you sleep it will be played forwards. Very interesting research coming out of Stanford University. Those that want to look the study up, this is by Dayan, D-A-Y-A-N, and Cohen. Now this is called a block of practice, okay? I want you then to do a different block of practice. I want you to close your eyes, stand too close or too far away, then open your eyes and then adjust quickly and then go to the correct distance. So the first block, you're going to have your eyes open. The second block, you're going to have your eyes closed. The second block, you're going to have your eyes closed and then you'll open them and then adjust. Again, do this in blocks of 10. The third block of practice, what I want you to do is I want you to move forwards and backwards like this and then set range. This is the third block of practice. When you can do that, and you're accurate each and every time, it's then time to start moving on to a different piece of equipment. So now we can move on to a piece of equipment that moves, and that in this case is the punch bag. Once again, we just set our range like this, and then we can move forwards and backwards until we reach the target. Once again, we're going to use our 3 blocks of practice. Firstly, measuring it and then moving forwards and backwards with our eyes open, measuring it again. Then, eyes closed. Move forwards, backwards, open your eyes, check, and then move to the correct range. The third block, moving forwards and backwards, and then stopping when you're in the correct range. 10 in each block. However, what we're going to do now is we're going to bring in a 4th block. This block is what's called randomized blocked practice. So we take the 3 things before and we randomize it. So the first time, eyes open. The second time, moving forwards and backwards. The third time, moving in and out with your eyes closed, eyes open, and then check range. Learning occurs much quicker when you use randomized blocked practice. But first we must learn the skills individually in those individual blocks first, then we can randomize it. That is going to increase your learning speed. Once we've got that range correct, we can then start to throw punches and the bag's going to begin to move, and we can move forwards and backwards to try and make sure that we are in the correct range. Following that, we can move on to different pieces of equipment, such as the double end ball, or floor to ceiling ball as we call it over here in the UK. That works particularly well. But of course, this is moving much, much faster. The next kind of practice that you can do is in partner work. Now, I don't think that setting range is an easy thing to do if you're on pads. The reason is, with the equipment or with a partner, you're setting range to here, just there. With a pad, the pad is held slightly further forward, so this is very difficult for beginners to learn. So a beginner, if they're on pads, would have to do this and would have to check that range to the pads being held pretty much level with the chin. So be careful with your beginners with that. The next step is then to do this in sparring, which is practice fighting. Now this is a long way down the line. We're not doing this in the first few weeks. A really, really safe and easy drill is to check to your opponent's shoulder like this, move forward, put your glove on their shoulder, and you can just check range to there. That's a nice, safe way of doing it without aiming at the head and making a mistake. You'll then need to repeat these drills for each range. My suggestion would be next to do medium range, then I would go to edge of range, because they're commensurately difficult in that order. I do not suggest that you begin from edge of range, because it is much more difficult than just plain old long range. Do not rush these practices. You need to do approximately 300 repetitions in each position and of each type. It's far more important to be able to do this right than it is to be able to do it quickly. Being able to do the basics when under pressure is something that makes somebody a really good boxer. Don't worry about doing the fancy stuff. Just be able to do the basics under pressure and you'll be doing great. As I mentioned earlier, these practices are summarized in the description below. Go there, take those practices, print it out, and then you can get on with doing it yourself. And I've done it in the exact order that you need to do this. Good luck with your boxing. If you can master range, you will master power.